Today I'd like to go over the differences in two very similar 2011 pistols, the STI DVC Carry and the STI Staccato P. As far as the Staccato P is concerned, I currently have the one with the optic. They call it the host cut. I had initially had one without it, but ended up trading for this one. So other than the optic, you can buy this without that cut, and all my comments are going to be the same. They would apply to that one as well. So let's start off real quick, compare the size of these two, and then I'll go ahead and compare and contrast some of the differences and give you my thoughts on them. So the slide on these guys is actually identical in length. There is no difference between them. Obviously the grip width is the same, but the carry, the DVC Carry, has a slightly smaller grip. The difference there is actually in the mag well. And as I understand it, to make the DVC Carry, what they do is they pop off this metal mag well. There is actually a polymer mag well underneath there, a smaller one, and they just cut that off. You can actually see the DVC Carry. It almost looks like they took a Sawzall to it. And in fact, I think that's exactly what they did, because they just cut off the mag well that used to exist right there. So these are both very similar guns. I have the two of them because I've got them set up for different things. I use the Carry as my daily carry, and the Staccato P with that red dot on it. It's a good little range toy. It is a lot of fun to shoot. And as I said before, I did have a Staccato P without the cut on it. I ended up getting rid of it because it was just simply too much like my DVC Carry. The primary difference that you're going to find on these is going to be cosmetics. The current DVC Carries can come with a rail like you have on the Staccato P. Mine has no rail, but the new ones, you can get them with it. So that's kind of becomes a wash. The Staccato P has the magazine well, this aluminum well. You cannot get that on the DVC Carry. It does not fit on here, and the reason is this metal mag well actually attaches to, it clips onto the polymer well that is in here, and then is held in place with this pin. Another difference you'll notice is the sights. So the DVC Carry has got the Heine straight 8s. I believe you can see that right there. Whereas the Staccato P, both this version and the version without the cut, comes with a fiber optic sight in the front and just a solid black sight in the rear. Obviously on the non-host cut, these are standard height. These are, on this one, more of a suppressor height. As far as functional differences, the triggers are very nice on both of these. And I would say that if I didn't have them side by side, I could not tell you the difference. But standing right here, I can tell you that the DVC Carry has a slightly lighter trigger, maybe a pound lighter. It's not much, and the trigger on the DVC Carry is slightly smoother. Again, if I didn't have this DVC Carry here, I wouldn't be able to tell you that it was any different than the Staccato. The only reason I can tell the difference is because they're side by side. As far as some of the other differences, the main thing that you'll see is I believe they spend a little more time on the DVC line than they do the Staccato line. And I'll show you what I mean. The milling is one way to look at this. So I've got them both right here, and you can see I don't know how well that's going to show up on camera, but the cuts on the DVC Carry are much nicer. They're more rounded, and they look more finished than the exact same cuts here on the Staccato. It's not as if these are unfinished by any stretch. There's no bad edges. These just don't have as much of a nice rounded finish to them as this DVC does. And you can see the difference right there. These are a little more harsh cuts, whereas these were done with a little bit more of a rounding to them. The DVC Carry also has the slide lightning, these cuts in the slide at the front of the barrel. You do not get that on the Staccato P. Instead, you get the front serrations. But the DVC Carry, these function as front serrations. It's a non-issue. The one thing to mention about the DVC Carry, there was a running change in how they did this. This was one of the early ones. So you'll see it has this bronze barrel. I don't know what the coating is on it, but it looks bronze. It looks nice. And no rail. Later on down the line, while they still called this the DVC Carry, this changed to a black barrel, and eventually you had a rail. I can't tell you when that occurred, but I've seen it both ways. Still the DVC Carry. They've later called it the dvc-c. So you'll see it referred to both ways. I've shot a dvc-c. I've shot one of these with the rail. It's the same gun. It's not a big deal. One other thing that I like about this DVC Carry is that rear sight. It's got this ledge. The intent being you can rack it on your belt. Just like that. So it is designed to be a carry gun, and it works very well at that. So the next question comes down to cost. Let's talk new prices, retail prices. This DVC Carry runs $3 grand. Staccato, without the RMR cut, one without that optic cut, runs $2 grand. With this optic cut, it's an additional $500. So $2,500 as this one is. Between the Staccato P without this cut and this DVC Carry, DVC Carry isn't worth an additional $1,000. It's nice, but I would not spend an additional grand over a standard Staccato P to get the DVC Carry. I don't see the difference there. I've shot them both. It's not there. So you may ask, why the hell do I have a DVC Carry? I didn't pay anywhere near retail. I bought this used, and I paid less than the cost of the Staccato for it. So that's why I have this. That's a quick discussion about the difference between the Staccato P, DVC Carry, both by STI. Both are great guns. They're the same size, about the size of a Glock 19. The rail on the Staccato P really does add a lot more weight to the front of that gun, which that DVC Carry doesn't have. Personally, I don't like carrying railed guns. They're too heavy to be comfortable. And I don't carry a light on a carry gun, so it doesn't make sense for me to have that. But at the range, as a range toy, this is a very, very nice piece. I like this. It shoots incredibly well. I really enjoy the red dot. And like I said, I wanted something a little bit different than my everyday carry, which is why I traded for this version of the Staccato P. So STI has recently updated their lineup for 2020. They no longer carry the DVC line. Everything is now under the Staccato line. I don't believe that they have a direct predecessor to this DVC Carry. The closest I see is the C2, the Staccato C2. So that's going to be a double stack carry gun, but it has a rail on it. You can get that with or without the optic cut. I have a Staccato C single stack. I've mentioned that in some of my other videos, and I'll probably do another one showing the difference between that and some of these other down the road. It shoots every bit as good as the rest of their 2011 lineup, so I wouldn't worry. But just be aware this DVC Carry, you'll have to find it on the used market, whereas the Staccato P, with the exception of a change in grips and I believe a barrel that is 1/10 of an inch shorter, you can still buy these brand new. Anyway, I hope you found that helpful. The STI lineup is fantastic. If you ever get a chance to shoot them, I highly recommend it. They're really, really nice shooting guns.